You see the multitude of kids who are enrolling in Carnatic music, Hindustani music, Kathak, Bharatanatyam, Odissi, Kuchipudi, and you know that this is one thing that is still thriving. We can actually use that to bring a sense of beauty back into the culture, to bring it back into children's hearts when they think of this civilization.
Namaste and welcome to another episode of Bodha, a series of conversations where we talk about the dharmic view of a wide range of subjects, including ethics, economy, ecology, arts, aesthetics, and culture. In today's episode, we explore how the timeless wisdom of Sanatana Dharma finds its expression in the world of performing arts through Rasa, Raga, Sahitya, Shastra, and how children can be introduced to these profound ideas in a joyful and accessible way. So, we have with us Rekha ji. Rekha ji is a writer, educator, and a passionate advocate for culturally rooted parenting. She holds an MBA from Santa Clara University, California, and a master's certificate in Vedic sciences from MIT, Pune. As the founder of Hindu Parenting, Rekhaji has dedicated herself in helping parents raise children in a strong Hindu consciousness while equipping them to thrive in the modern world. Rekhaji, it is such a pleasure to have you here. And before any further delay, let's begin. So, for who are new here to your work and this platform, could you take us a little back and share your journey? How did Hindu parenting come to be? And what led you to take this unique approach to parenting and education?
First of all, namaste. Thank you, Cherish, and thank you, Bṛhat, for giving me a chance, an opportunity to tell my story. Um, when we become parents, we are not thinking much, right? We are not thinking of the future, and we are not certainly thinking of the way we are going to shape our children. But you can look at this in two ways. First is with a vision of what you want your child to be. And the second is what you do not want your child to be. And sometimes it is easier to draw the boundary and to think about the latter. That becomes an easier place to start. About my own story, during the Citizenship Amendment Act 5 years ago, um, many high school children in urban schools were told by their teachers and school authorities to stand with black bands and to hold placards against giving citizenship rights to the refugees, the Hindu refugees coming from the neighboring countries. I think at that time, it became rather painfully apparent to me, at least, maybe to a lot of other parents, this is not what we want our child to do. So it all started there. And, as parents, we put so much time, energy, effort into raising them the right way. All parents do this, not necessarily only Hindu parents. And then to see them stand against the lost and helpless children of our own civilization, that was very painful, and it really sent some kind of a message. And I thought I must do something about this, especially because I tried talking to a few parents, and it seemed like parents were also, at least some of them, were misinformed and thought that having the child do things like this was something cool. So you see where we are starting from. And so Hindu parenting was born in the crucible of emotions, you can say, during the CAA. And I started this with a vision. to give resources to parents, to Hindu parents, about clarity who we are. The first step is who we are civilizationally, the civilizational clarity. We need it first. And then, of course, how to communicate it to children, how to raise rooted children. And I think most important, how to make sure that the children are not snatched away, their minds reprogrammed or programmed for the first time into standing against our very culture and civilization.
That's such a heartfelt beginning. It's amazing how a personal conviction can grow into a community and a movement. You've really created something that speaks to the deep need. Moving on, I'm curious. You've worked extensively at the intersection of culture, parenting, and traditional knowledge. What inspired you to start exploring Bharatiya art forms through the lens of parenting and education?
Now, first of all, at Hindu parenting, my main areas of focus, there are two areas of focus. One is, of course, since it was born uh, during the activist days, there is a focus on deep understanding of this new phenomenon of activism. So I do a lot of work in that area. The second is, of course, the performing arts. It happens to be a passionate interest of mine. And also, I see certain ways to introduce children into it. And I see a big synergy between starting at the performing arts and going on towards making sure they shape up well and are proud of the civilization that we've inherited. Now, when it comes to education, unfortunately, our education system in India leaves a lot to be desired. I think, that's a separate topic, and we all know that. It takes children away from the culture and traditions of this land. It's unfortunate, but while we try and find a fix for that, I do know that there are many grassroots organizations and initiatives working in that direction, and I wish them all the best. But meanwhile, all we have are control over our families. That's all that is in our locus of control. And over here, learning history, teaching them traditions, all this is doable, but it's hard. It takes really committed, dedicated parenting to try and do all these things. But you have a lot of children going to music and dance classes. Okay, we still have that alive. What if we could sensitize children to our culture through the performing arts?
Right.
And what if we can manage to add a layer of awareness that we can incorporate in this performing arts education that children are receiving today? So, that is one of the things that I am working on. Um, I also like to mention here, as per my thinking, I believe that our civilization has two major characteristics.
Mhm.
Simply put, you can think of it as beauty and duty. Duty, I think we all know the Pancharanas, and we tell children to obey elders and things like that. And a sense of duty, we are a duty based civilization, not a rights based civilization. So a sense of duty is still there. But beauty, where do you find beauty today? The public spaces are full of ugliness, actually. If you go to old temples and if you see old architecture, you do see the glimmer of beauty. Probably the public spaces also looked beautiful at that point in time. But we have lost access due to invasions, due to colonialism. We have lost a lot of beauty from our day to day life also. If you see objects of art, or if you see normal objects from, say, 100 years ago, even 200 years ago, you see the door frame, an ornate door handle. You see small everyday objects of use, like maybe an ornate lock, intricately carved. You see that there was a lot of beauty in daily life too. But we have lost a lot of that. And what we have left today is what we tell our children. We focus on duty, but without the beauty. And I feel it's no wonder that children are sort of not very enthusiastic, to put it mildly. So we need to find a way to bring beauty back into the equation. So, how do we do that? It's not so easy to do anything with the public space. There is the literary arts tradition. Again, we can find beauty there, but we have almost lost all our languages. In the sense, we've lost the thriving system of creation there. Not that the languages are completely lost, but um, what is it that we have left? The literary arts, unfortunately, have moved towards English. So, what our children learn today is all about Milton and Keats and Shelley and Shakespeare. And they think that is where beauty is because they don't know anything else.
Right.
Um, what we still have is a thriving culture of performing arts. You see the multitude of kids who are enrolling in Carnatic music, Hindustani music, Kathak, Bharatanatyam, Odissi, Kuchipudi, and you know that this is one thing that is still thriving. We can actually use that to bring a sense of beauty back into the culture, to bring it back into children's hearts when they think of this civilization. And I think a lot of my effort has gone into trying and making sure that this actually happens.
Wonderful, Rekha ji. This is absolutely essential at this point in time. Like you rightly mentioned, we're moving towards something called minimalism, where we're trying to uh, make everything concrete boxes and nothing more than that. We need to bring back this sense of beauty. It, in fact, reflects in every activity that an individual does. So I can't wait but ask you about your upcoming workshop, which is titled Raga and Rasa. Sounds beautiful and immersive. What can children and parents expect from this experience?
First of all, let's define what it's not going to be. Today seems to be the day where we start with the Neti Neti approach and keep building. After defining what it's not, we'll zero in on what it is. So it is
Right.
clearly not meant to teach dance and music because there are specialized teachers with years of training expertise who do it so well. But what we do need today is a little bit of help. We need children to be excited and enthusiastic about the performing arts, about arts in general, about performing arts. Um, so this is envisioned to be complementary to what the teachers are doing and to what the parents are doing at home. Because the parents put in a lot of effort to take children to art classes, to dance classes and music classes. And a teacher would love to see a child who is culturally sensitized, who knows what it means to have bhakti and to, who knows what it means to portray the evening aarti at home, who knows how to find clues in what they're learning and and bring them all together and in a sense of deep joy and enthusiasm. Any teacher would love to have such a student. And here, I think we are helping the teachers and helping the parents create the big picture. You know how sometimes when you think of a picture, it pops out when you have the right background colors.
Mm.
So I think this is my goal for this course, which is to join a lot of dots in the background and to give the background information, to give a big perspective to the children. This perspective takes a lot of learning. It's like the classic chicken and egg problem. Children who stay with this long enough will find the beauty eventually if they're interested. But we leave a lot of things to chance. There are a lot of children you're going to lose on the way who complain that it's boring and who drop off. We don't want any child to drop off. We want them to savor the beauty and the joy in aesthetics and in the performing arts. As far as parents are concerned, um, I welcome parents and the whole family for this workshop, especially for parents who, for the first time, are having their children learn these things. It is not in the family, but there is, you're going the extra step by trying this activity out for your children. And so I think it really helps to know what the children are going to learn, say, a few years hence, how to interpret these things. We need to add a layer of interpretation. And at the end of the day, performing arts is a group activity. And it needs to be a family activity first. The whole family needs to enjoy the concert. The whole family needs to sit together and feel the joy. And also, it's not a joke. It's not easy to have a child excel or even find joy in the performing arts. It takes a lot of effort from the parents. So, when you consider all these things, it's very important for parents and children and the siblings to all of them sit together and enjoy performing arts from different perspectives. Children will also learn a lot about processing their emotions, because at the end of the day, performing arts is all about finding that emotional connect. And today, we talk about EQ and we talk about emotional awareness. One of the best ways to have emotionally intelligent and sensitive children is by an exposure to performing arts. But performing arts taught in a very dry, boring way is not going to be enough. We need to be able to put the rasa back, the joy back in the performing arts, which is why I've titled it Rasa and Raga. I'm thinking of it as finding the rasa, finding the joy, and the medium for that is the raga or the melody. So children will be able to sit and listen. There's a lot of listening involved in this workshop, and they will find a way to um, find the words to understand how it makes them feel. So we're going to start from there. Um, there's also some application that you need to build into all these workshops to retain the interest of the children. It has to stay relevant to the modern world. How are we going to do that? By introducing these aesthetic theories, which sound very dry and difficult, but as you'll see, it's going to have a real world application. And so I'm hoping to bring all these together. We've already run the class a couple of times before, and the children and the parents really loved it. So I'm hoping to do that a few more times in the future, and hoping that children and parents both find joy in this workshop.
Absolutely, Rekha ji. So, finding meaning in whichever activity one does elevates the whole experience. So, this background work is great. Now, it leads me to a thought that Indian aesthetics, it gives us theories from Nritya Shastra, from Alankara Shastra. But how are these usually introduced to children in your sessions? As in, do you use stories, games, examples? How is it done?
For children, it needs to be immersive. And the first thing is you need to find that emotional connect that I was talking about. That's when children respond. And, even for a child who's learning to perform, it is a journey from being able to learn the navrasas, the emotional states, to experience them, and then to get so good at the technique that they will then be able to make sure the audience gets that emotional experience. So that is the goal of performing arts, and these are the sort of things that I introduce in the session. But first of all, they will hear a lot of music. They will learn how to understand how that makes them feel. They will find the words for it. These are done through games. And then, of course, each composition, and I'm mainly talking about Carnatic music and Bharatanatyam here. Each composition in Carnatic music has a story associated with it. If you know how to look for the clues, there's a lot that it actually says. It's not a question of just learning the composition and singing it. It talks about who the composer is. It talks about the deity. It talks about the raga chosen Has it been chosen for a certain purpose to have a certain emotional experience there? How does it relate to what the composer wants to convey? What about the choice of words, the sahitya? And then there are a lot of tools here, the aesthetic theories. And these are the alankaras, the, rasa, dhvani, paka, vakrokti, auchitya. So these sort of things, they sound difficult, but kids can be introduced to them in really easy ways. Rasa is nothing but, the emotional response you have. So once they hear a piece of music and think about the words to map what they're feeling, then they get an experience of um, understanding this in terms of the navarasas. So, right there, you're introducing the rasas. And and then dhvani can be a little bit difficult, but there are ways in which I do it. There is also auchitya, there is paka, it's basically a sense of sensitization. It's sensitization to the performing arts. And yes, this can be done through stories of the sthalas, every place has its own story, every temple has its own story. And very often these composers visited so many temples, sat there and wrote that composition specifically for the temple. And each of these tells a story. And when the children learn to look for these clues and join the dots together, there is a great deal of recognition. So it is done through stories, through games, through a sense of recognition also that children have. They often bring to the workshop the things that they're learning, and we use these theories of aesthetics that they will be learning in the workshop to apply it to their favorite composition. And then they just feel so happy, and it's that recognition on their faces, the joy on their faces when they connect the dots, and when they start putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Um, Brilliant. It is honestly such a creative way to pass down something that's traditionally seen as very heavy or very academic, or something that we won't be able to comprehend easily. I can see, I mean, how kids would love and enjoy it. Like you just mentioned, when they can connect the dots, I'm sure the experience is very, very different after that. When they're able to take things from your workshop, apply it there, bring things from there, and probably think it out here. So it's a lovely initiative. Brings me to another point where I want to ask you, how soon is too soon? So, for a child who's just beginning their journey in dance or music, how soon is too soon to be exposed to these deeper concepts? Or is there such a thing? Because a lot of parents, I'm sure, must be thinking around these lines.
It is never too soon. Let me just put it that way. It is never too soon. But of course, a very young child would absorb things very differently. And in a mixed age workshop, we have to fix a certain age because it can be taken to any age group. See, these are times when a 2-year old knows about, this is my choice, that is not my choice. And what we are doing with aesthetic theories, it is just a science of analyzing thoughts and feelings. And a 2-year old has thoughts and feelings. A 5-year old has thoughts and feelings. So it can be taken to children at their level. It just needs a certain skill to be able to relate to children at every level. So it is never too soon. And also, one way of looking at it is to wait and to say that children need to be a little bit mature to handle these things. But I think children are much smarter than we give them credit for. And when in generations past we have waited too long, of course, children are smarter now, but even otherwise, they are capable of grasping even philosophy. It's just that it has to be taken to them at the level that they can understand. And then you have to make it very practical in terms of giving examples and in terms of letting them relate to what they already know. And when you give them these terms, they may not get a full understanding of rasa, dhvani, auchitya, vakrokti, paka, and alankara right now, but somewhere their brain is storing it.
Right.
And repeated exposure. How does it happen that children develop their likes and dislikes? Repeated exposure to terminology that they don't even understand. So I think we should not shy away from having children be exposed to the terminology that really is beautiful and matters to the civilizational importance at this point. And so when they hear words like rasa, it's okay if they don't get the full import of it right now, but somewhere, even if they drop out of the performing arts 20 years later, an article is going to strike their fancy because it talks about rasa. Hey, I heard it somewhere. I heard it before. The curiosity comes back. So it's never too early. And I think we should not make the mistake of waiting.
Right. It is such a reassuring perspective. And it's actually refreshing to hear that depth can be made accessible and even joyful at any age. So, finally, Rekhaji, I want to know what's your vision for the children who complete this course? Not just as artists, but I see them as young inheritors of civilizational tradition. So, how do you see them, people who've done this course?
First of all, my goal here is to make sure every child, even those children who are, you know, only briefly learning. I mean, we are talking about children who are learning for a year, for 2 years. We have to make sure that they don't slip out through our fingers either. So they have to, also feel the pull, the tug at the heartstrings when it comes to enjoying the rasa. They need to be able to feel the joy. And that can only happen when we focus on the arts appreciation part of it. For too long, I think we have left too many things to chance. And we can't leave things to chance anymore. We're not at that point. So we have to very actively go out and do arts appreciation. Um, of course, I want them to learn emotional intelligence and awareness through the concept of rasa. I want them to be able to appreciate Indian languages and the metaphors through the use of alankaras and chandas and these things, which we do a little bit in the course too. It's just the sound, because right now all they're doing is doing figures of speech, simile, metaphor in English, but the actual beauty of simile and metaphor comes out only in Indian languages, and we give them a taste of that. So that, and then, there's a very, very important point that um, it's not just for the children who are learning music and dance. It is also for people, not just for children, for people who want to be able to appreciate these things. And, that's how we build the cultural literacy. So, because if you think about it right now, you have groups of young people who maybe from their office or college, they do not go out to watch a Bharatanatyam recital, but the same group will be going to a Coldplay concert. So, right there, again, by defining what it's not, we have seen what is cultural literacy, because in this case, we know what it's not. So, clearly, there's a lack of cultural literacy in the general society. And I think through arts appreciation, my goal is also to build the cultural quotient in people, in young people, and in children, because these things are best learned before you form your opinions. Then, of course, the desire to innovate. Performers have it as also listeners or the rasikas, who are the ones who are trained to listen, to actively listen, because listening to classical art forms and enjoying them is a process of active listening, not passive consumer of information. We are not passive consumers. That itself, I think, is a very big skill in these times where most of our entertainment is passive. So that is a skill that I want children to take away. I want, like I said, the emotional awareness to be there. I want children to have joy. And I want the sense of auchitya. Now, I just want to take a minute to explain what that is, because I think that's a key concept here. There's fusion music, there's all kinds of fusion art forms, dance. These days, you cannot have a straight-jacketed vision of what performing arts are. The desire to innovate comes naturally to people. And while I want children to be able to innovate, they have to also know that they are the carriers. They are the link in the chain of this very precious parampara that we've had, the Guru Shishya parampara. It's a very sacred thing, and right from the Natya Shastra, it has its origin in the Vedas, from Lord Brahma himself. And there is a certain awareness of this that you need to have as a performer of classical arts. And when you do push the boundaries, you also have to think of a concept called auchitya, which tells you, or at least which makes you aware of how far to push the boundaries, and beyond which it becomes inappropriate. So that is a sensibility that I wish kids, and for people who are also, rasikas, and who are um, appreciating these art forms. It's for them also to be able to develop that sense of viveka or discernment in them, to know what is acceptable and what is pushing boundaries way out. So, these are some of the things that I want children to take away. And yes, I mean, we can go on talking about this, but I think I've answered your questions, right, at this point.
So, just one more thing, because we are speaking about the workshop as well. So, do you expect the parents also to be attendees with the children in your workshops, or is it just the children who are attending it? How do you see this?
It is meant for children, maybe from the age of, say, 10 to, I think I've said actually 12 to 19, but it's really a very broad sort of grouping, because younger children, it depends on, every child is different. And I do welcome the parents to sit along with the child, because I think, families can get a sense of how to enjoy this together. Like I mentioned, the family support and role is very important here. And I also have a few adults who are interested and who would like to do this, because they have never been looking at things with a view to just appreciating them. So it is for everybody. And I think building this layer of narrative, we need to build this narrative heft around our art forms, because otherwise, the art forms are twisted. I mean, it's not just the art forms that get twisted, but when you do not have appreciation of beauty, or a certain way to connect to beauty, it is these intelligent, sensitive children, who then go off into the Marxist side, because there they will, on the surface of it, there is beauty and appreciation and empathy and all the good things, but they are twisted to see the mundane or the ugly, or in a competitive way. Whereas the vision that we give here would be to see the divine, to see the sublime, and to see it in such a way that you're exposed to a lot of the positive rasas. How do you feel after you come out of a concert? How do you feel after you come out of watching a dance performance? Even for people who don't know much, the goal here is to give them the tools to be able to appreciate it deeply. But there is a certain feeling that we carry within us. But the same way, when you're talking about social justice, and we're talking about art forms being, in many ways, appropriated for that cause, the feelings that you're dealing with are, the bibhatsa rasa. You're dealing with something that's shameful, something that's frightening, something that's uncomfortable. So there is a world of difference. And as long as we don't develop this narrative heft, you know, the children will not be able to relate to these art forms simply because we have not taught them how. And it is my goal to be able to change that.
Brilliant, Rekha ji. That is such a profound vision. And it's like you mentioned, it's not just about shaping performers here, it's about shaping carriers of the Samskriti. To I feel that this is civilizational continuity in action, and you're doing great work here. So, Rekha ji, thank you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom with us today. It's been very enriching to hear the intent behind Rasa and Raga and the larger mission of Hindu parenting. So, we're grateful that you for the work that you're doing in reviving and recontextualizing the civilizational knowledge that we have for the next generation. Dhanyawad once again for joining us and wishing you all the best for all your upcoming workshops and Hindu parenting and as an initiative as a whole. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Dhanyavad.